Welcome everybody to the Crypto and Mental Health Podcast. Today we have our special guest who is going to unmute himself, Skenoo. Not sure if I'm allowed to say his real name or not. Why don't you introduce yourself to us, Mr. Skenoo?
Hey, yeah. It's Skenoo. Scott, thanks for having me on, and I'm excited to talk today.
Awesome. So yeah, you're calling from I think southern Turkey today, so the internet connection is a little unstable there. So we'll try to be extra forgiving of you. And besides this is the Crypto and Mental Health Podcast, so we want everybody to be feeling wonderful and not threatened. So when the audio does break out a little bit, hey, we'll just have patience, right?
Yeah, I'll do my
So
best, and um, we'll manage it as we go.
great. So I think you and I met last year at the Bitcoin Miami conference, Bitcoin 2022, and you came up to my booth and we had a really wonderful conversation about some of the projects that you're working on, and then some of the struggles that you've seen in life as well. And so I know that you're very involved in the crypto market and the crypto industry. And so why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background and where you're coming from here and what you're working on.
Yeah, 100%. I jumped into the crypto market in 2019, and 3 years ago now, which time flies in this market, I guess. And like a lot of people, I started to trade during the pandemic, and I really fell into it like a lot of people do. Went down the rabbit hole. Everyone has their rabbit hole story. Everyone has their rabbit hole story, and
Yeah.
so I fell down mine,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just went head over heels. My background's in architecture, and sort of, I'd say, mid to late stage career, professional. And so towards the latter half of my career, I became more interested in regional economics and regional economic development issues. And so that's what I was doing just prior to uh, um, trading. My trade when my trading took off in 2019 and 2020. And so really, just for context and why I came into your booth, frankly, is because I had been working on a project related to we were interested in developing regional energy security solutions, and in Canada, where I'm from, it was a lot of hydroelectric.
Yep.
That's why I came to see you, because my passion was to see if what could we do to decentralize economies, and how could crypto mining link into that. And then
Right.
the
Yep.
tail end of things is I started a software development company, and so we've been working for the last couple of years now, 2-3 years now, developing smart contract solutions in crypto and token in the token space.
Very cool. So I know you and I had a very impactful conversation at that conference, and I think it got you a little bit emotional. What was that about? Because I know you have a real heart for the local people there in Canada where you were, and I'm just wondering, after it's been maybe a year or so, what did that moment mean to you, and what happened there?
Yeah, well, Miami was a real watershed moment for me personally. Not to mention the fact that we had just come through some crazy lockdown shenanigans up in Canada, like everywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
And so just the fact that I was able to get to Miami was it was a big effort, personal effort. Had to make a lot of sacrifices to be there. But really, it was part of a much bigger story for me personally, and this is where I think the mental health comes in. And for me, um, you know, I only really began to overcome the major mental health struggles that I have wrestled with for 20 years now. Actually, it's been over 20 years since I was first diagnosed. And it was in 2016 when I started to sort of remap and reconstruct um, my entire uh, view of myself and deconstructing my worldview from a logical perspective and going through that entire, like John Kabat-Zinn says, the full catastrophe of living, and really embracing it honestly and
Right.
directly, and and like Nietzsche says, amor fati, we have to love our fate and turn directly into the thing that is most terrifying for us, and so the whole story of decentralization and cryptocurrency and personal freedom and sovereignty, it directly, for me, directly is into this work that is everyone's responsibility to tackle the most difficult thing in the world, which is ourselves, frankly, I believe.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting concept. So our conversation specifically in Miami, you were talking about perhaps launching a Bitcoin mining farm or cryptocurrency mining farm that could benefit the local people, right? And I think at the time you were throwing around the idea of working with um, maybe some of the First Nations people. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Actually, at the time, I was working closely with a group up in Canada, um, and the goal there was to build indigenous innovation centers. And because of the structure of the laws and sovereignty of indigenous property in Canada, particularly in British Columbia, there was some unique opportunities for these indigenous groups to write power purchase agreements with the provincial that would have been BC Hydro, and
Okay.
so the goal was to actually, and still is the goal, is to build data centers and spin up, from the ground up, entirely new uh, centers of industry and economy. And so the data mining centers themselves is a going concern in and of itself. My task was to develop and work on and develop, like you say, how we could actually structure the mining as a part of that team, and as a solution for energy independence for the indigenous populations there, and also to could contribute to load balancing, and so on.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's interesting. It's a concept I want to further explore because, yeah, I think, well, in the future, I think those power producers, people who have special agreements to utilize power or that can produce power for cheap are going to be an integral part of mining. We're already starting to see that right now with oil and gas sites and even some nuclear sites. It's getting more and more married together, the actual power production and the Bitcoin mining. So yeah, I know that meant a lot to you. To try to work on a solution that would benefit the Aboriginal, the First Nations people. Um, but yeah, so now, I guess I just wanted to talk to the audience here for a little bit. The reason why Skenoo here doesn't have a first name or a last name, the reason why he doesn't have a photo is he he hasn't yet come out to his followers, and he hasn't shared who he is yet. But so yeah, you do have some Telegram groups, don't you? And like a Twitter handle that you guys post some content to.
Yeah, so and I'm happy to talk about that. And um, uh, like a lot of people who choose to stay anonymous in this space, it's it's a decision you come to carefully. We still don't know where we're at in this world when it comes to censorship and control by central authorities. I think that's a serious topic that everyone should consider carefully. Um, I personally have nothing to hide, but we are in, I think, a very unique space and a unique market. And with the power of technology, I think we have to be very sensible about the choices that we make. If people were really interested in finding out who I was, it would probably take them about a 20-minute Google search and they could find me. So it's not like I this isn't like James Bond level concealment or anything like that. It's just a choice that I'm making for
Yep.
now.
Yep. Well, awesome. Yeah. So what's one of the major projects that you're working on right now? I know you've been doing a lot of traveling in the Eastern hemisphere of the world. Yeah, what's keeping you busy these days?
Yeah, so after the Bitcoin conference last May, um, uh, the I went back to Canada at that time, and then decided I wanted to continue to travel because with the restrictions at that time, I didn't know when restrictions would come back, and the more I watched the behavior of our Canadian government around censorship and the trucker convoy and stuff, I was really quite disappointed in not only the government, also how people respond to what I thought were clear intentions. For me personally, I care deeply about politics, economics, and philosophy. Those are the three pillars I think that I view the world through. So, with the most um, clear sense. Those are my metrics. If I come across any problem, and actually this gets back to my mental health, I revert to some very simple tools that I've developed over the years, and I guess you call local therapy, um, which is just taking words seriously. When I see a culture and a society not take their words very seriously, um, and they don't consider the implications, even they don't have the tools or the words to understand or what the implications are when the state says we have authority over your body, right? We can inject your body with things. I don't have to go. We don't have to go to conspiracy theory on this at all. Just from a very basic level, if you just read the basic texts in philosophy, there's an important difference between where states' authority begins and ends. And I think we need to have a serious conversation about that. I think we might have cut out there for a minute.
Yep, no, it's fine. It was a little garbled, but we get the main gist. Yep. So, Skenoo, what would you say that people misunderstand? What do people misunderstand most about you? I think we're having a little lag in the audio here. So just as a reminder, Skenoo is over in South Turkey. He just dropped off the call, but we're going to go to a little bit of a break here, and we'll share about some exciting upcoming events that we have here. So this first one here is the Dominican Republic Bitcoin meetup, and it's an event that I'm throwing. You can go to 2.tools/dr. And so we're going to have some guest speakers. It's going to be a great time. We're going to have a party in the Dominican Republic in the mountains of Jarabacoa. So the agenda here is at 1 o'clock. We're going to do some networking up in the mountains at the restaurant called Hamaca de Dios. And there's going to be a presentation followed by a pre-party and then a hosted dinner from 5 to 7, and then after party from 7 till 10. So this is going to take place December 28th and in the Dominican Republic. You're welcome to come early, stay late, and just enjoy the country. There's going to be some speakers coming in from out of the country, and as well as some Bitcoin influencers directly in the Dominican Republic already, who will be joining us there. So the second event that we have here is my event called Scott's Virtual Mining Conference. You can go to 2.tools/virtual. And here it's going to be an online party as well as a 3D virtual Bitcoin mining expo hall. So it's going to be a pretty interesting experience if you are interested at all in using Oculus, or if you're into gaming. We have this pretty simple 3D virtual world where you can have an avatar and you can go around and actually network with people, and it's pretty cool. So there's going to be some exhibitors there with their booths. You can enter into their booths and ask some questions and watch some videos. So that's another cool event that we have coming up. And then also at the end of April, we have our advanced level 2 miner repair training. The same week, we have a basic level 1 repair training as well. And this takes place in Wisconsin. So you can go to 2.tools/advanced for more information about that. But yeah, let's get back to our broadcast here. And we have Skenoo back online. And all right, welcome back. How's your internet over there?
I guess I cut out. Yeah, it's sketchy. It's sketchy.
Yeah.
I'm in a great location. It's beautiful. But it's quite mountainous here, and the exposure we have.
We need to. I think we need to get you some Starlink, or some satellite. I don't know. So well, let's try this again. See if you're still online. The question that I want to ask you was, what do people misunderstand most about you?
Hey,
I
if I
can hear
heard
you.
your question right, it was what do most people misunderstand? What do people misunderstand most about me? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Um, I actually don't know because I'm not most other people. I'm not any other people actually. So I really have no idea what they misunderstand. But I can tell you one thing. What I have learned is, of course, is we're all having our own experience, and so what I've learned is that if you spend enough time with anyone and you really care to understand how they view the world, you can bet your bottom dollar that they would not be living your life the way that you see fit.
That's true.
To put it
Yeah,
one way. To put it one way.
probably. Yeah. Another question for you. So hey, if you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
Well, I think with the history that I've had over 20 years of really trying to find a fit between how I see the world and my place in it, um, really becomes a question at my age and stage in life. Is it's about my legacy. And so I mentioned 2016 and how that was the beginning of reconstruction for my life. So at that time I thought, well, anything I do from this point forward is it's about what I leave behind. And so in terms of what I'm remembered for, my goal is to just keep working at what I'm working on, which is to build relationships in communities around the world and find solutions that work for them and try to solve some big problems, not to step back from the big challenges in life, because what I found is that when I shrink from a challenge, I shrink as an individual, and my thinking becomes subpar. My ability to think rationally declines, and I suffer for it, and everyone around me suffers for it. So take on the big challenges, take on yourself, and I hope I'm remembered actually just simply as a person who uh, can encourage other people.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for answering that question. Um, so how about an influential person in your life? Maybe you could tell me something about an influential person in your life and how they impacted you.
Well, I could pick three. One would be John Kabat-Zinn. Another one would be um, friend of mine, Mario, up in Canada. He taught me how to practice qigong. John Kabat-Zinn introduced me to meditation, and then Jesus Christ.
Very nice. Sounds like th three wonderful people. I know a little bit about the last one. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
what's
Jesus.
that?
He's pretty sweet.
He's pretty sweet dude.
Yeah,
So what was that middle one? You said chi bang?
qigong. It's like Tai Chi.
Okay.
Slow movement, control
Movements for
breathing,
spirit.
focus of the mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
A lot of slow hand movements, and that actually uh, that relates to my understanding of Jesus Christ, because when Mario was my first instructor with qigong, and when he taught me that practice, it's a practice that goes back, maybe 5,000 years in China, and it changed my whole perspective, not just perspective, but my conscious awareness was completely changed in the space of 2 weeks through this practice,
Really.
to the point that it was beyond my ability to understand. And the only way I could explain it was that it was as though all the explanations in the Bible that try to describe what the kingdom of heaven is like, that's what my waking experience had suddenly shifted to. And it really forced me to ask myself, I can't really say that I know who is this God that I worship, this God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because somehow he was miraculously able to introduce this person into my life that taught me a life-changing practice, and it hasn't diminished me one bit. It's only expanded my awareness, and
Yeah.
taught me humility, and given me great strength. So I'm grateful for that. It's wonderful that our God is a God that he's God of the whole world. He created the whole show.
Well, if you can make it back to United States in the middle of May, there's actually a conference called Thank God for Bitcoin conference, and it's taking place the day before this next Bitcoin 2023 conference in Miami Beach. Sounds like that might be a good fit for you.
That
But yeah,
sounds
that's awesome. It's awesome to hear that you had, kind of a, I don't know, a woke experience, that made you more appreciative of God, through your meditation practices.
yeah. Yeah, it's been great. It's been really really great. Um, I'm at a bit of a loss for words, I guess.
That's that's okay. I have another question for you. Um, So what's one of your biggest pet peeves in this crypto industry? You know, this market.
Pet peeves, pet peeves. I don't know if I have any. I mean, I do. Uh, I trade the market. So if anybody has any inside tips on who to talk to get the chart to go up when I want it to go up, that's my biggest pet peeve these days. But a pet peeve about crypto. You know what? I think. You know, seriously though, um, it would be nice if we could talk about and this could be my shortcoming as well, but I'd like to have a more honest discussion about how cryptocurrency and proof of work um, can come together without so much, you know, so much vitriol from Bitcoin maximalists. I like their perspective and I understand why they're so passionate, and I think they serve a vital role in this whole industry. Um, but personally, would be nice to know, come to grips with, at least for my own benefit, why we can't talk about, um, a space for proof of work and cryptocurrency together. Seems to me like people are partitioned into, pardon the pun, but partitioned into proof of work camps and Bitcoin maximalists and then the shitcoiners.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see some cross homogenation over there in that whole
Yeah, no, I hear
space.
you. You know, the name of my company, or the name of my brand is Scott's Crypto Mining, and you know, I didn't know that I'd get so much backlash from the Bitcoin maximalists about that name, and so tried telling them, well, you know, Bitcoin is crypto. You know, it's the best crypto, right? But it's a cryptocurrency. But their way of seeing it is no, you know, there's Bitcoin and then there's crypto, um, and Bitcoin is not crypto. But so it's really, you know, some of it is just semantics. Like, okay, it's cryptocurrency. It's built on cryptographic technology. Um, but yeah, there's definitely a big divide there, and it seems like there's a lot of religious zealots, I suppose, who, you know, very much guard and practice their religion and religiosity of Bitcoin maximalism. So yeah, I definitely see your point there in wanting to nurture that conversation between, you know, cryptocurrency and proof of work and where all of that fits in.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't lose any sleep over it. There's also, you know, the term pet peeve, I guess, is it's sort of like, a pet peeve is sort of like something you just can't let go of. It's just like
Something that
I
gets a
choose to
goat.
keep this. Yes, I'm just gonna keep this thing around because kind of makes me uncomfortable, and I like the uncomfortable feeling that it gives me. It's kind of my thing. I like to not like, and so I try not to give too much oxygen to these kinds of things because again, at the end of the day, it's where does that really take me? I think. The problems I like to focus on are the problems like I mentioned earlier when Nietzsche talks about amor fati, love your fate. The few times in my life, Einstein, I think he said, most people have, maybe two thoughts in their entire life, and the rest is just regurgitation. And
Hmm.
and I think I've been blessed to have my two thoughts in my lifetime, and those have been great moments, but they've come after like tremendous amounts of effort and sacrifice, um and and when I mean effort, like I mean sort of in the Wu Wei kind of way, the being not being kind of way, like getting out of my own way. And it's that it's like being on the first yard line, and to score the goal, you've got to overcome like the most resistance you can imagine. But in the world that I understand, I live in, it's not a world that really operates on the basis of it's not my will be done, it's his will be done, and the ultimate submission and sacrifice. I can't understand it. I mean, it's not something you can explain from the mechanics of it. It's he who knows doesn't speak, and he who speaks doesn't know.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Um, well, we're coming close to the end of this podcast here. I like to try to keep it under 35 minutes, but so I have a question for you. The question is, what's one question you wish I would have asked you during this podcast, and how would you have answered it?
Maybe how do I like my steak done? That party you've got happening down in the Dominican sounds like a good one.
Hmm. Yeah, there's
That sounds,
always good
yeah.
food there. I like the they call it the bandara. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but the bandera is like the flag, right? And it's like their chicken and their rice and their pollo guisado. It's they have some really good food there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great. That's great. And you're quite well known for your events and parties that you throw. And I'd really like to come to one of those. That's definitely on the list. Definitely on the bucket list.
well, good, good. Yeah, I hope you can make it out of South Turkey and make it back to the Western Hemisphere. Maybe we'll meet up. Otherwise, maybe I don't know. Dubai is always a good place to meet. Maybe we'll have something there.
Hey, let's talk about Dubai. It's probably next on the list here for me in next month or so.
Nice. Well, okay. One parting question. What's the most important or an important life lesson that you've learned over your career? Just
Personal life lesson I would say is
put you on the spot
take
here.
yourself seriously.
Take yourself seriously, really. A lot of people would say don't take yourself too seriously. But
Yeah,
what
I
does that
think that's bad
mean to
advice.
you?
I think I think I think we have uh, you know being in Turkey right now. I wanted to tie something in here actually during this talk, and it hasn't come up. And that's the difference about living in a in this case culture that's uh, it's dominated by the Muslim religion and the Muslim culture, and so it's been wonderful for me because I don't speak really any Turkish at all, so I don't have to um, think about what other people are talking about. When I overhear conversations, I don't understand a word I'm hearing. So, um, but I've been able to learn through the relationships that I've developed here a lot about the culture, and it's a wonderful culture. And 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 a lot of this, because I don't understand the language, I have to presume that people being largely the same no matter where you go in the world. The major difference that how we experience one another is through our cultural differences. Um, and
Right?
getting back to this idea about taking yourself seriously is it's you know we have compared to some of the places I've been in the last several months and over the years, we have it comparatively easy in the West, and and that's putting it mildly. Um, and so, the problems we think we have are not actual problems. And that's what I mean by take yourself seriously. I don't mean in this self-serving sort of way, but, you know, for those who are really working and struggling, not just to make sense of their own life, but to make sense of the world and um, make sense of the language that they choose to use, the way that they speak to one another and to themselves, the real fundamental philosophical questions that lie at the base of everything. I mean, in that sense, to really take the problem of the self seriously, maybe is a more accurate way to say it.
Sure.
Take the problem of the self seriously, and ask yourself, who am I? Who am I? And if anything is possible, and it is, anything truly is possible, then not so much about who am I in the world, but who is the world in relationship to me. I think maybe the last thing I'll say before the podcast ends is I have a very good friend up in Canada, and he gave me some, I wouldn't call it advice, but he said to me one day, he said, "There's no need to genuflect to the world," and he was a very well known practicing lawyer in Canada, one of the top prosecutors in the country, and to genuflect is to defer to the court. And so what he was saying is, in this world, in this lifetime, to do anything of importance, to become anyone of significance, to look yourself in the mirror and truly know who you are and to be happy with what you see, there's no need to defer to authority in any shape or form. The only authority you need to answer to is to God, in my opinion, in my view. That's what my understanding is. And that's what I mean about taking the self seriously.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. One last question I have to ask everybody. If somebody gave you 500 Bitcoin tomorrow, what would you do with it, or what would you spend it on?
Wow. Well, the first thing I'd do is I'd put it in a hardware wallet, and then I'd give it a lot of thought, because that kind of a windfall doesn't come around every day. I probably would do my best to keep it and not spend it and not trade it. And yeah, I think that's what I would do. I would probably not do anything with it, because
Until you've had
I think
time
the real,
to process it, huh?
pardon me?
Until you've had time to process it and think about it.
Yeah, I think so, because I mean, really, what you want to do is you want to invest it. So I think it should become an investment. That would be my view. Just to sock it away somewhere and invest it for the long term.
Well, awesome. Skenoo, it was good talking with you. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, and I hope to see you in person again very soon.
Thanks for your time, Scott. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Take care. This episode is brought to you by ASIC Ninja.